Hi, I'm Elizabeth, this is the Bookish North, and you might not see it, but I have a bunch of books in front of me right now. But my aim is that by the end of this video you will have seen them all, because this is of course a book haul. So I spent my winter holiday in the UK with my good friend Silje. I'm sure by now she will have a lovely vlog of our trip up, which I will link to, and I plan on doing the same myself. But that's gonna probably take a little more time because I have a few other things I want to get out of the way first. But yeah, we spent a week in Hay-on-Wye, which is a book town with lots of lovely second-hand bookshops. And then we had a few hours in London as well. And I've acquired some books. And you probably don't remember this, but I made a video at the beginning of the year about my reading goals for this year, and one of my goals is that all books acquired during 2020 I am also to read in 2020. And I have to say I haven't made that very easy for myself on this trip, particularly not if I also want to achieve my other reading goals, because I think if I have to read all of these, I will probably have to up my game in how many books I read per year to accommodate all of my goals, but we'll see how I'm gonna do. But yeah, my aim is that I will read all of these before the end of the year, which I have never achieved on any of our previous book trips, I'll say. But enough with the babble, let me just show you the books I got and tell you why I got them. So I tried to reconstruct the order I bought them in, and that's the order I'm going to show them to you. I will say, apart from the fact that I need to read all of this year as well, my only other restriction was that I needed also to be able to bring it home with me in my suitcase within the weight restrictions of the airline, which can sometimes be a bit of a challenge on these book trips, I'm not gonna lie. And you'll see from one of my later purchases that it got particularly challenging this year, but I managed. So I got all of these books home and I'm super happy for that. And now let's get to the books. So one of the first things I got was The Untold Lives of the Women Killed by Jack the Ripper by Hallie Rubenholt. This is a book I've seen praised very many places on BookTube by now, and I've been very curious about this. So this is one of the books I wanted to look for, and I found it at the very first bookshop we went to, which was Richard Booth's bookshop, and they have both new books and second-hand books. So this was one of the ones I found in the new section, and I'm very excited for that. Another new book I got there was Zen in the Art of Writing by Ray Bradbury, which is a book about writing. It's a collection of essays that he has written over several years, all with his thoughts on writing. This is a book that I've constantly seen mentioned when there are lists or whatever of books about writing that's worth reading, so I thought I'd give it a go. I have actually already read this while in Hay and I quite enjoyed it, so that was a good purchase. Then I also got Blindness by Jose Saramago. This is the book club pick for March for the book club I'm currently partaking in. So this was another one I was planning to get. I don't really know a lot about this story. I have read one other book by Saramago which I really enjoyed, so I have high hopes for this. And I don't really want to read the blurb because I want to go in knowing as little as possible. Then I got the fourth book I got in this very first bookshop we went to is one that was on a complete whim. It's Elizabeth Barrett Browning by Margaret Foster. This is a biography. I have to admit I don't really know a lot about neither the author or the author that she portrays, but I read the back of the book and I got excited, and then I read the introduction while sitting in the bookshop and I got intrigued, and I thought, well, maybe it's about time I learn more about Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and this seemed the perfect book to teach me. So that was the first bookshop, and 4 books. I mean, that kind of shows where this is heading. So the second bookshop we went to that day was Adamant's, which is another really great second-hand bookshop. And I something that turned into a trend on this is that I've become really drawn to these old green Virago editions. So I've been really picking out a lot of these from shelves. I haven't bought all that many of them, but I think I've read the backs of like 100 probably. And this was the first I got. It's called The Ha-Ha by Jennifer Dawson. I have no idea about this book. It just really drew me in from reading the back of it. It's a story about mental illness, and yeah, me and Silje had kind of an interesting discussion on the trip about all the covers with females sitting down looking disinterested, and this is certainly one of those covers. Yeah, I was drawn to it. I will report back after having actually read it, so I know something about it. Then another green virago is The Lifted Veil by George Eliot. I've been meaning to read something by her. This is probably not the most typical place to start, and I'm not sure what I'm going to think of my choice. This is a very slim book, and it's described as being very unlike her. The final sentence of the blurb, it's a chilling tale of moral alienation and despair. This forgotten novella testifies to George Eliot's little-known interest in the supernatural. So I thought, hey, let's give that a go. And then I also got another slim volume, which is A Very Easy Death by Simone de Beauvoir, which is her talking about the death of her mother, which is probably going to be a painful thing to read, but I read the first 2 pages and it is beautiful, and I just realized that it is now completely in 2 pieces. Oh well, it's still readable. And then I also got Packing My Library by Alberto Manguel. I have probably heard more about other of his books than this one, but I know he is an author that is often praised for his writing about books, and I always enjoy reading about books, so I thought this would be a good book to read about that. And then I got another one which was also a complete whim, which was called Off the Map by Alistair Bonnet, which is about well, places not found on maps, I think, or something of the... Off the Map takes us to the ends of the earth to show us some of the most remarkable but least known places on the planet. I was looking at this, I wasn't really planning to buy it, but I started reading the introduction and that was enough to get me hooked, so it got home with me. And this is why I really like shopping in this kind of bookshops, because you never know what you're going to find, and everything is going to be a surprise, so that's good. So that was the end of day 1. Day 1 of shopping, 9 books. Not bad. I mean, my record for one of these trips yet has been 47, so I mean, I wasn't too stressed out, but a little. I knew I had to restrain myself a little bit after that. And so the first bookshop we went to on day 2, I wanted so many of the books they had, but I couldn't make up my mind, and they were all hefty hardbacks. And so I decided I wanted to go back towards the end of the week and buy whatever my weight allowed me. And by the end of the week I never got back there because I bought something else that was very heavy, so no books from that bookshop. Did however buy 4 books in the next shop, and here I was again drawn to the green Virago editions and picked up 2 books that I had never heard of before, both by Miles Franklin. They are sort of in a series, so you got My Brilliant Career and you got My Career Goes Bung. So I've already read this and I quite enjoyed it. I am going to read this in not too long, I think. These are Australian novels from the... this was first published in, I think, 1901. It's about a young woman, she's 16 years old, living in the bush, and it's about her upbringing and her cravings to be something more than just a married wife in the bush. It's a fairly autobiographical novel, and Miles Franklin, or Stella Franklin as is her real name, was only 16 when she actually wrote this. And then this is a sequel I don't know all that much about, because again I have been avoiding reading the blurb because I didn't want to know. But I know it's a sequel, and I know it was published very late, was first published, I think, in 1947, because the publishers thought it was too self-revealing to publish to begin with. So I enjoyed this. I'm going to talk more about that in a wrap-up, and I look forward to reading the sequel. And then I got 2 books, which I guess if you've watched this channel, you're going to think are very me books. So I got Language Visible: Unraveling the Mystery of the Alphabet from A to Z by David Sachs, which is a book about the alphabet, and it looks to be quite comprehensive, more comprehensive than any of the books I've read on the subject before, so I was super happy to find this. And then I also got an Ancestral Voices: Decoding Ancient Languages by James Norman, and you know, the title pretty much tells you what you need to know, and I'm all here for that. Then we went on to the Poetry Bookshop, which is an entire bookshop that sells only poetry, which is a genre I don't read much of, but I wanted to buy something, and I bought I Want by Vicky Fever. Know nothing about this, but I was reading a couple of the poems while browsing, and they spoke to me, so I bought the book. Then we went on to the Hay-on-Wye bookshop, where I indulged in my immersion into all things Tudor, while rereading the Hilary Mantel books about Thomas Cromwell, and I got In the Lion's Court: Power, Ambition and Sudden Death in the Reign of Henry VIII by Derek Wilson, which is a hefty non-fiction volume. And I also got Thomas Cromwell: Servant to Henry VIII by David Loades, which is somewhat less hefty, but I am eager to read both of them now, or now-ish, because I am, as I said, really immersed into this world right now. So that concluded day 2, bringing the total tally up to 16 books. And then on day 3 we went to Hay Cinema Bookshop, which is a ginormous bookshop. They have, I think, over 200,000 books. It is over 2 stories. It's very well organized. It was also very, very cold. So we were there for probably a good 2 hours, but by the end we were so cold that we just needed to go somewhere and have a hot beverage and just gain warmth again. But I did buy 4 books. This was actually the only place this time where I bought Doris Lessing books. They are getting harder and harder to find books that I don't already have, because I have, I think, about 50 now, so there's not much more to get. But I did get particularly Cats, which is a couple of stories she wrote about her cats. I have actually read this, but I don't own it, so I bought it for the collection. And then I got Going Home, which is sort of a memoir she wrote about going back to Africa after having been living in London for a long time. So she went back to, well, she grew up in southern Rhodesia. I think it was Zimbabwe by the time she went back, and this is one I've been really excited to read, but I haven't found it before, so I was happy to find this. Then I got a biography of Virginia Woolf, written by her nephew Quentin Bell, which I've heard about, but I've never read it, so I thought I want to change that. And then a bit of a random find for me, but I got Plain Song by Kent Roof. I think it's Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading that's been talking about this and really recommending it. So when I saw it, and also in perfect condition, I don't think this has ever been read, I thought I was going to try it out. And then afterwards we ended up going back to Richard Booth's bookshop where we were the first day, and I got 2 more books there. So I got The Hittites by O.R. Gurney in a Pelican edition. You will see this book again in this haul. And then I also got Edge of the Horizon by Ian Sinclair, which is a book about a walk he and his wife, and I think also Alan Moore was along, and Brian Catling as well, where they are trying to recreate a walk by the poet John Clare, and this sounded very intriguing to me, so I bought it. You see a pattern here. So, end of day 3, total tally 22 books. Coming into day 4, we started off at the Old Electric Shop, which is a combined bookshop and a lot of other things shop. It's a very charming place. It also has a brilliant cafe, and it was smelling so good the entire time, and we ended up having a very early lunch, as well as having browsed the shop. I bought a very tiny book there. I bought The Gift of Reading by Robert Macfarlane, which is basically a single essay. It's 33 short pages long. I've read it today. I really enjoyed it, but yeah, still counts as a book, so I bought that. Then we went to another bookshop, which I have sadly, I think it's called the Hay Book Center or something, where first off, I found some books that I really wanted. I am collecting all of the books by Virginia Woolf. I've now gotten all of the ones that are in the beautiful new, Virago editions. But I have some books that I don't think are part of that series, at least not that I have seen. And I got these, I got Between the Acts and The Voyage Out in these editions, which I also really liked. So happy to find that. And then I also got Fighting France from Dunkirk to Belfort, which is the stories written by Edith Wharton from the front line of the First World War, which I found very intriguing. But then in this bookshop I found, or rather Silje found and called out to me because she knew I wanted this badly, exactly what I was hoping to find while in Hay. At this time I had already bought 26 books. I had about 10 kilos in my suitcase that I could fill, and I was sort of slowly approaching that limit when I found this. So I was umming and ahhing a bit whether or not I would be able to get it home with me, but I thought, well, sod it. I'm going to regret it if I don't get this, because I have been wanting this for years, and it weighs 5 kilos, but I got it home, and it's this beautiful folio edition box set of the history books of the Babylonians, the Hittites, the Egyptians and the Persians, and I'm happy. I'm very happy. And then I did haul a book about the Hittites earlier, and it's actually the same book as this, but I had already bought it when I bought this, otherwise I would obviously not have bought the other edition. But I mean, I'm not going to pass this off because I have one of the other books in another edition. So I really like reading books about these specific times in history. Well, I haven't read all that much about the Egyptians, but the other three I'm super excited about. And then these editions look so beautiful, and it was in really nice condition. And I have of course seen this box set first at in the backdrop of the videos of Justin at Triumphal Reads, where they are always sitting there in the background, and I've been so green with envy. And now I have my own copies. I am super happy about that. But that kind of put an abrupt stop to my shopping, because I knew with this I was over my limit. I knew I needed to put this in my backpack, and that my suitcase was pretty much filled out. So I sort of, the last 2 days we were there, I was browsing and I was thinking, no, I'm content with my purchases now. I'm not going to buy anything more, but of course I did, just not as much as I would have otherwise. But I did get The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, which is one of hers that I was lacking. I started this 50 pages in, and it is beautiful. I'm loving it so far. I have all of the other books I have by Morrison are in these vintage editions as well, so it's matching the ones I already have. I needed to buy this, and it's only tiny and weighs almost nothing, so I bought it. And then when we were in London, we were also, of course, in Foyles, and I didn't go bananas as I usually do when I'm there, but I did buy one book, and that's Dear friend from my life, I write to you by Hay-on-Wye, which I was looking for in there when I was in London this summer. I couldn't find it then, but I found it now, so I bought it, which is of course a memoir about her reading life, and it's been highly praised by several people on BookTube. Sean the Book Maniac was probably the first I saw talking about it, and I've been wanting it since, so I bought it. And that, my friends, concludes this book haul. 31 books in total. 2 of them are different editions of the same book. So let's round it down to 30 books that I need to read before the end of the year. Which is not really a problem, except that I of course also want to read other things. But we'll see how it goes. Hopefully you will see all of these books again in wrap-ups throughout the year. And sometime in the not too distant future, you will probably also see vlog kind of video from Hay and the beautiful bookshops we visited on this channel. So if you read any of these, I would be happy to hear what you thought about them. And apart from that, I guess I'll see you next time. Bye bye.